I'm Motty, that's Scotty, and we're live. And guess what, Scotty?
What's Motty?
Jadon Sancho is going to the Champions League final. Are you buzzing for the kid or what?
I am. If I was Ten Hag now, I'd be cancelling that loan deal and saying, right, we need you for Wembley ourselves.
What did you watch the game?
Yeah, it was a great game. I thought Dortmund were brilliant and deserved the winner. PSG sort of hit the bar a few times in pole, but it was well disciplined and drilled team. Dortmund, they're not a team full of superstars, are they? I think Hummels is 35. They've Marco Reus on there for the second half. He's 35. Emre Can's been around, but it just shows you the difference when you've got a well drilled team.
I know what you're getting at. I know what you're getting at. With Sancho, right? Where do you stand? We're going to get into Erik Ten Hag. We're going to get into Southgate as well. There's some rumours doing the rounds that Gareth Southgate could be heading to Old Trafford. We're going to get into all that. But just on the Sancho thing, what have you made of it?
In terms of him coming back to United?
Yeah, because obviously the way it went down was a bit messy. I honestly didn't think the manager. I know there's a lot of things to criticise the manager. I didn't think the manager did anything wrong with what he said personally, and I thought Sancho's reaction was OCT. And then it was a shame he couldn't sort it out. But
I agree with that. I've tried to look at it from both sides. Obviously, we only hear what's come out in the press and sort of what Sancho put on Twitter. But from what he said was like he was made out to be a scapegoat, and there's more to the story sort of than Tag was letting on. Now, if you're Sancho, I'm not saying that he's done amazing over in Dortmund and stuff. I didn't play particularly well tonight. I think he was subbed off about 60 minutes. But if you see Anthony in front of you playing week in, week out, and Sancho was our best player in pre-season as far as I was concerned. I think we were on this podcast saying that, I think I was hoping he was going to be one of the most surprising players of the season. He's been surprising for different reasons, but I think he's certainly a talented lad. I think the only way he gets a move back to Old Trafford is if Ten Hag goes, but even then, I think it might be one of them players that would look to sort of make money on in the summer. I'll try and recuperate some money.
Yeah, I'm not ICK, but I did speak to some of some people who were close to him, and they were saying like even his team and people were trying to talk him out of his actions, and he weren't having it. Like they were saying like like there was a real concern that he could go a little bit off the rails, but obviously he's got his act together, gone to Dortmund, done well there. I just don't think maybe United suits him, to be honest with you, because I don't even think it's just Ten Hag. I thought he was unlucky he was injured when he was under Ole. Rangnick was a bit of a mess for everyone, but he's just never looked like the player at Dortmund since we've had him. He just hasn't. Like,
no, not at all.
Like, you see it at Dortmund. You saw it against Paris Saint-Germain in that first leg. You've seen it sometimes as well. You think, wow, when we got him, that's what I was thinking we're getting. And we never quite seen glimpses. Like, I remember at Stamford Bridge, I know he had a stinker. The last game was at Stamford Bridge, but the one before that under Michael Carrick, he did well. There was a game at, there was a goal against City, there was a goal against Liverpool. There has been moments and stuff where you go, yeah, you know what, like this could be it. But then he struggled. Like whenever he does that, the next game he falls off. Do you know what I mean? Like we've never seen two good games back to back. Not like him with Sancho. And I'm with you. I think it's probably one of them where he's going to end up just what all this is doing is helping him get a permanent move, and whether that's Dortmund or somewhere else, I think he's definitely put himself in a shop window. And listen, I don't hate Jadon Sancho. I was saying this on Paddock the other day. I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think he's a bad lad. I just don't think he's handled it very well, and I just don't think he's suited to Manchester United for whatever reason.
It's very sort of reminiscent of the Pogba situation when you think about it, all the sort of fanfare and expectation. There was a massive sort of marketing campaign built around when Pogba returned to Old Trafford, wasn't they? And then obviously he was very similar and left under similar circumstances, really, when left. And, I think he's at the end of his career, but I think Sancho's got a lot more mileage, unless he's been doing anything dodgy there. I'll not speculate on here, I don't think he has, but, yeah.
You know better than anyone, we haven't got a legal team. No. So don't start going down that. Our legal team is Google, and I did a law module once at college about 20 years ago, so that's our legal expertise. Listen, enough about Jadon Sancho. I wish him well in the final, sort of. If it helps Manchester United get some money for him, then I'm all for it. We're going to talk about Erik Ten Hag, but just recently, like in the last sort of an hour, there was this story broke from, I think it was from Foot Mercato, saying that basically Gareth Southgate is he's going to be announced as the manager. He's going to be the next Manchester United manager. It says here, I'll read it out. It says, United want Gareth Southgate to replace Erik ten Hag. The club are reportedly keen to get an agreement in place in the coming weeks, though no announcement is expected until after Euro 2024. Now, you've been very vocal about you don't think Erik ten Hag's the right man for the job. You've said it for months now, for a multitude of reasons that I think everyone can see. And, you know, Sellers Park was either going to change your mind. Where do you stand on Gareth Southgate coming in? Do you see that as a viable option?
I hope ten Hag stays.
That's got to be the biggest criticism of Gareth Southgate anyone has ever given. There's
nobody, is there, that wants Gareth Southgate to have the Man United job, really?
No.
I
think you're right. I think Gareth Southgate, he's the one man actually that could unite the fans. This could be one thing that gets all the fans working together on the same page, on board. It'd be like the Glazers Out campaign where you just go, right, okay, let's get together, let's try and work together. I think everyone will be united in saying Gareth Southgate is not the man to get us winning titles.
If Southgate's seriously linked with a move to Old Trafford, I'll be in the Stretford end with a bed sheet saying "Save Ten Hag in hashtag."
You'll be there with one of them signs, you know, that signs that say "Ten Hag, can I have your shirt?" Ten Hag, can I rub your head? Listen, let's just put things in perspective, right? Let's sort of play devil's advocate. Sorry, not put things in perspective. If INEOS are looking at him, they might be looking at him, and we don't know, right? It's come from a source, Foot Mercato. They've got quite a lot of followers on social media. I think they're based in France, 3.9 million followers, but they're not like tier one. No one's looking at that and going, okay, that's David Ornstein has spoken, it's going to happen, or it's here we go from Fabrizio Romano. It's a pretty sort of patchy at best publication saying that Gareth Southgate is going to come now. It's quite clever because everyone's talking about it, everyone's generated a load of clicks and views and all the rest of it, because there's a lot of people going, my God, please, not Gareth Southgate. So it's words. But just to play devil's advocate, let's say for a minute, INEOS were considering, because he has been mentioned a few times, right? This isn't the first time we've heard the name Gareth Southgate. I think he does know Brailsford and Ratcliffe and them lot, but they seem to know everyone. They know all the coaches. They know everyone. Obviously, Dan Ashworth, who we expect to come in, knows him because he worked together at England. If you're going, okay, why would you get Gareth Southgate, you think? PR-wise, when it comes to him dealing with the press, he's got quite a good relationship with the press. I think he's always done that side of the England job well. And this isn't me advocating for him. This is me saying why they might be looking at him. In terms of his tournaments with England, I think he's at semi-final in 2018, final in 2021, which is the 2020 Euros, and quarter-final in the other World Cup. That's good. That's a good record for an England manager. But the problem with all that is, I don't think you can appoint someone to Manchester United based solely on international football. And I think that's what it is. Because if you look at his club record, he got sacked from Middlesbrough after getting him relegated. So he's got no club credentials. And that was, 15 years ago. He's got literally zero club credentials. He's got zero expertise in the transfer market. I don't think his last signings were, like I said, 15, 16 years ago. So he's not like he's coming and he's bringing a dossier of signings that he's made or targets that he had for his club, because he hasn't got any targets because he's an international manager. His man management, I think it's okay. I think we have seen some good performances from players during tournaments. I thought in 2018, Lingard and Dele Alli in particular did very well for him. I think Maguire's always played well for him. John Stones has played well for him. But I don't think he's a particularly great man management. I don't think he's someone you go, he gets the best out of players. I think people like Harry Kane and even Jude Bellingham's lesser degree are always going to give you sort of level performance. And I still think he struggled a little bit to get the best out of Phil Foden. I think Phil Foden is a very, very talented kid. And I think for England, he's not always shown that. I think he struggled with him a little bit to get the best out of him.
If people thought that Jose Mourinho was pragmatic, I think Gareth Southgate's even more so. You know, if you the final against Italy when we went 1-0 up, you know, we should have been all over that and just attacking them constantly. We just ran out of a game plan when they went 1-0 up. And I think whilst you can say, yeah, they got to a semi-final with England and they got to a final, when you look at the team that got to them places, I think that's a failure on my behalf. I don't really care for England, but I think the team that you've got at your disposal, you should be doing a lot better than you have. I think the bar was that low for England's expectations that they're seen as a success. You know, I mean, how many years have hurt since '66 and all that nonsense. But for what he's got available at him, I don't think he's getting the best out of him, and that's been my criticism at Ten Hag, whether that's the starting 11 when we've got a fit team, or even when we've got an injured team. So I don't think he's getting the best out of the players at all. So I think it's a sideways movement. I think it'd be a safe bet maybe with INEOS having sort of the knowledge of working with Southgate in the past, maybe because you've got the Ashworth and all that around him, it might work a bit better than we have with Ten Hag. And whilst I've been critical of Ten Hag, it isn't personal towards him. I just think, if anything, he might be a great manager at the wrong club. Do you know what I mean? Or the wrong time at Manchester United. And there's a multitude of reasons, but I think a lot of the mistakes are becoming more and more glaringly obvious as to, like, I don't think he can sort of hide behind any of his sort of quotes about being entertaining or dynamic and stuff like that. And I just don't think, if we're hoping for United to be like the DNA and all that, I don't think Southgate instills any sort of that hope, does he? You're not going to play cavalier football with Southgate. I just think it'd be horrendous. I just don't think it'd be good for the PR the relationship between INEOS and Manchester United fans to get off with Southgate being their first managerial signing. He's not a sexy signing, Jay. That's what I'm trying to say.
You're telling me you don't get turned on with him in his waistcoat and him in that little beard he's got?
Only the ones.
Only the ones, yeah. Do you remember that? He was flexing that waistcoat for a little bit. He was pioneering your fashion sense, wasn't he? No, listen, I hear everything you've said. I think when you look at Gareth Southgate, I hate using international football as a barometer for anything when it comes to Manchester United. It was like when we used to sign, like we signed Karol Poborski because he had a good Euros and players like that. And you should sign. You can sign players like Sofian Amrabat's another one. We're signing him based on it felt like a clip of him running alongside Kylian Mbappe when France beat him in the World Cup. But I think a lot of it was the fact Morocco got to the semi-final. He played well during that tournament. Let's get him in. And, he did okay at Fiorentina. Obviously got him to the Europa Conference final. But that's hardly like earth-shattering, is it? Getting to a Europa Conference final and mid-table with Fiorentina. I think a lot of it was based on international football. And it's the same with Gareth Southgate. Now, listen, I said his record is good in terms of where he's finished in tournaments. But if you scratch beneath the surface there, if you look at that World Cup in 2018, obviously me and you watched the Croatia game together. England take the lead. Croatia make a change. Southgate doesn't respond, doesn't know how to handle it, doesn't know what to do when they're getting a load of joy down the flanks. They end up winning. You go to the Euros final, as you mentioned, against Italy. England take the lead. Italy are exposed at the back. We're getting a lot of joy. Luke Shaw keeps getting forward. Kieran Trippier keeps getting forward. It looks like we could get a second. We don't. And in the end, we end up giving it away on penalties. And I say giving it away because I think he made a big mistake bringing on Rashford and Sancho just for the penalties. Then you go to the France game. And the France game, for me, was the worst one of the lot. Because at least with Italy, it was penalties. It's a bit of a lottery. The Croatia game, okay, should have done better. It's his first tournament as well. Let's not forget, it's England's equal best performance in a World Cup away from England. You can't be too harsh on the guy for that. But for the France game, you played, I think he took off Saka, who was playing really well, to the point where the French players were like, when he was going off, like, bro, what? This is all basically celebrating the fact that he took Bukayo Saka off because he was tearing them apart. He brought on Raheem Sterling, who hadn't trained all week. He gave Marcus, who was our joint top scorer at the time and had been playing really well during that tournament, 5 minutes. And then when you scratch beneath the surface of him at tournaments, you go, okay, let's go even a little bit deeper. In that 2018 World Cup, we beat Panama, we beat Tunisia, we beat Colombia on penalties. And I think they were missing, was it Rodriguez? They were either missing Rodriguez or one of their key players. Beat Sweden. So he didn't really beat any of the big boys. In the following Euros, okay, I think you beat Croatia. It wasn't a great Croatia team, but you beat them. You beat Germany, a poor Germany team, to be fair, but you beat them. But then you get up against an Italy team, which are there for the taking. They're there to, this is an Italy team that isn't vintage. I know they won the tournament, but they struggled. And yet, he just gets outdone. And then this France team, obviously, France are a very good team, but there was an opportunity to beat them. And my point I'm getting at is a manager who's got that tactical nous, he could have worked out a way to do it. He could have. and he didn't. And had he done that, had he won the Euros, had he got past France in that World Cup, had he actually shown, look, when it comes to tactics, I know what I'm doing. I've grown into this role. I've grown as a manager. I can show you things here now where I'm outwitting Deschamps or whoever. And you go, actually, yeah, he's like, give him his flowers. He's decent. I might have a different opinion, even though I'm not a big fan of international football being used to make decisions for United. But he hasn't really done that. All he's done for me is shown that he can get a group of players together, create a good atmosphere where everyone's sort of on the same page and everyone tends to get on. And he's ended this whole sort of fractional stuff that you had with England. And he's got them all sort of working together. That's, good, but it's not good enough to make you the Manchester United manager. Like, it just isn't. Like, there's nothing there where I go, okay, that's amazing. I will get into some of the comments in a minute. Loads of people in the chat in the comments.
I think, like, the England job's probably one of the easiest international jobs to have, Jay, when you've got, like, you made the point there, didn't you? It's just like getting a harmonious group of players together who are very talented and then putting them on a pitch. It's like Pep Guardiola is a brilliant manager, but I don't think the City job is that difficult because you've got that amount of talent at your disposal. Do you know what I mean? I think Manchester United, for the fucking calamity we're at the moment, for Southgate to come from England setup, which, seems quite a joyous place to coach, to come to Carrington where these pieces of Lego on the playing field that's injuring players week in, week out, whatever's going on there.
Yeah, no. Listen, there's other options available. We're going to get into it. I'm going to get into some of the comments first of all. PJ says, Tuchel is better. I agree. I think that's a bit of a no-brainer. Could Gareth Southgate win the Champions League at Chelsea? Don't be stupid. No. Like, not a chance. That's just, like, I know people might go, well, Dean Sale did it. Look at what Gareth Tuchel did, not just at Chelsea. Look at what he did at PSG. He had a decent record there. Look at what he did at Dortmund. I think they won a trophy there. Bayern Munich, obviously, they won the Bundesliga in the first season, which isn't the most earth-shattering thing, especially when they only just got over the line on the final day. But he won a Champions League at Chelsea, and he's in the semi-final of the Champions League. I don't think Gareth Southgate would be doing that. Mick Holohan says, Jay, are we the Farmers League? It's a good question,
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because everyone laughs at these leagues. People go, PSG, look, they win the league every season. It's a joke, that league. It's Farmers League. But Bayern Munich, they win the league every season. It's a Farmers League. Or, it's not that great. Listen, you've had 2 title winners in the last 2 years in Germany. You're not going to have that in England. You're going to have City for the 4th time in a row for, what is it, the 6 out of 7 years? I wouldn't say we're the Farmers League. I still think the Premier League is the best team, best league in the world. But in terms of competitiveness, it's fell off. It's just City, isn't it?
Well, I mean, and then you look across Europe as well. Like, there's a German team in the Champions League final now. There's another one that could go in tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all went out in the quarters, didn't we, in terms of...
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That is. And then you look at, I think one of the most exciting leagues in terms of titles and stuff is Italy. They've had 6 champions in 6 years, I think. I mean, imagine that in England. Imagine having 6 different Premier League winners in 6 seasons. Yeah. You'd never see that, would you? Like, that's crazy.
I couldn't pick fucking 3 or 4 teams that I'd probably try and win it.
Tell you what, if you had 6 title winners in 6 years, United wouldn't be one of them. It'd be Villa and Spurs and Brighton or something before us. Leicester would win it again. They'd come up and win it again while they're coming up anyway, aren't they? What's this? We've got Witterbirds in the chat asking something. How do you take your Weetabix? I don't like Weetabix, mate, to be honest with you. Anthony Jarvis says, I think German League has been better than La Liga for a few years now. I think Bayer Leverkusen in the German League have been phenomenal. Really have. Like, unbeaten. The nature of those wins as well. Last gasp winners constantly, or equalisers. They've held on to that unbeaten record by the skin of the teeth. Like, so many games where you think they're done and they come back and they're riding the crest of the wave. And I'm glad that Alonso's staying there, to be honest with you, because I thought if he'd have gone Liverpool, I'd have been worried because I think he's a very good manager and I think he'd have done really well there. Dr. Rocco says, Southgate nailed on, according to people I know. Great appointment. I don't know if there's a little bit of kidology there. Loads of people and 220 people watching. Make sure you're hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button. I want to ask you a little bit about Erik ten Hag then, right? because you've made your feelings clear on him and you made your feelings clear on Gareth Southgate and Tuchel and one or two others. Do you see any scenario where Erik ten Hag is the manager next season? I know you don't want him to, and I know you've explained your reasons why. I don't think we need to talk about this every single podcast because you've explained it in a way that, I love arguing with you, but even I can't argue with you. I get your point. But I think him being a manager?
I think the justification for him being manager next season is that maybe INEOS have identified who they want and he's not available yet. That might be one scenario. There might be the situation where they want to get this Dan Ashworth thing over the line. Now, I'm not having it that he's not his mobile phone on gardening leave, so asking his opinion on certain decisions, but it might be a case that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the board are happy to sort of write off next season whilst they get Carrington sorted, whilst they get all the behind this. Do you know what I mean? Whilst they sort of build behind the scenes, and give Ten Hag a little bit more time to sort of prove his worth. Because if they do get a new manager and there is still a lot of upheaval behind the scenes, like Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going around bleeding, cleaning up people's desks with fucking butties they've got from Tesco or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it seems like it's a right calamity as most of us expected behind the scenes. So it might be that the reasons that they might hang on to him is because they want to do the stuff behind the scenes before they start doing the front of the house. That's a justification that I could see. I don't think there's a shroud of evidence that I can pinpoint to why he should be manager from the football that I've been seeing at Old Trafford or away games for the last 2 years. I just can't see it.
No, I mean, the football has been poor. I've done a couple of radio things today and I've said the same thing on all of them. Also, I've put a link into our Patreon. There's extra content on our Patreon if you want to go and there's a link in the chat. In fact, I'll just do another little cheeky one there. So go and check that out. My only thing with Ten Hag now is I'm actually of the opinion he won't be the manager next season. And I think that if you're INEOS and you're bringing in Dan Ashworth, and I think they will bring him eventually. I know it's not over the line yet, but they'll get there, man. You're bringing in Omar Barada, who's obviously been at City for years, has been all part of their success. You're bringing in Jason Wilcox, who again has been at City and then Southampton, big part of their success, and you're asking him to work alongside a manager who's struggling in a football that's not really happening for him. Are they going to be on board with that? Are they going to think, yeah, he's the right man for us, or are they going to say, look, you need to get a different coach in? I think they're going to. Want to go in a different direction. I think if you're Sir Jim Ratcliffe and you spent 1.25 billion. And you're watching the games. He goes to the games. You're hearing the crowd booing substitutions when substitutions are being made because they don't agree with it. You're seeing a player that cost the club 80 million quid struggling, and it's the manager that brought him. You're seeing another player that cost 70 million quid struggling, and it's the current manager that brought him. I'm talking about Anthony and Casemiro, in case you're wondering what I'm on about. Are you going to just go along with that for another season? I'm not so sure they will. And I've said it all along. I'd like to see him being given another chance. And I know I understand your reasons for not wanting that, Scotty. I get it 100%. But I would. But I don't think it'll happen. I don't. I think they'll go end of the cup final, regardless. Even to the point where I think if he wins the FA Cup final, I think the decision is going to be made, and I think we're going to Louis van Gaal it. I do. I think if by some miracle. Let's face facts, right? United could still win the FA Cup final. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. It's not likely, but we could do it. Wigan beat City in an FA Cup final when Wigan got relegated, right? So United can, on our day, beat Manchester City. I mean, we'd need them to probably have an off day, but it can happen. So there's a scenario where you can win the FA Cup. It's not completely out of the question. However, is that going to convince them? Are they going to go, right, now he's won that, let's not ring Tuchel. Let's stick with this guy. I don't see it. I think they'll just say to him, look, you've ended on a high. You won the FA Cup. Well done, but not for us. I think there's been too much gone on where the performances have not only been bad, they've been record-breakingly bad in terms of shots conceded and stuff like that. You're in danger of finishing the lowest. Well, you are going to finish, I think, the lowest you've ever finished in the Premier League. I think that's almost guaranteed. More defeats you've ever had in the Premier League. More goals conceded, more shots conceded, any sort of metric you want to use. And I think that whilst injuries have played a factor, you can't just say it's all down to injuries when the football has been so bad. And I thought it was quite telling last night as well that for the first time, certainly I can remember in recent memory, Ten Hag was a little bit more honest in his analysis after the game. Yeah. He wasn't, we're the most entertaining team in the league. He wasn't, we're our performances have been very good. He wasn't, hey, let's focus on the fact we've got to our second cup final or our third cup final in 2 years. It was very sort of critical. The only issue I had with it was I thought he was a bit harsh on, for me, what felt like Kobe Mainoo when he was saying some of the younger players as well for the first goal need to take responsibility. That felt like it was aiming a dig at Kobe Mainoo, which I thought in an ideal world, a kid that's literally just turned 19 wouldn't be playing all the minutes he's playing. He certainly won't be playing in midfield where he's got Christian Eriksen, who's no longer the player he used to be.
Well, that's the point, isn't it?
And like, Casemiro alongside him. Well, Casemiro behind him, sorry.
Why? Like I'm Amrabat's biggest fan, but the sort of the team that we had available to play against Palace, we weren't going to win that game. We just weren't going to. We know with the Maguire news and the Fernandes, we weren't. Why not set up not to get beat? It's that play Amrabat instead of Eriksen and play deep and then try and hit on the counter attack. And it's little naive mistakes like that I just can't get my head around. When he did a quote about 6-7 months ago when he said, "I don't have the players to sort of play the IA and United." So okay, you haven't. So what are you going to do about it? What football are you going to play? Because there just hasn't been one. Well, you talk about the FA Cup final, and this whole season is very reminiscent of Van Gaal's, because if you look, then we play Ashley Young up front during Van Gaal's last season against Spurs, and he played Di Maria out of position, and I'll do like
he played Di Maria up front and Rooney in midfield at one point as a DM.
So there's players all over the place there and stuff, and INEOS and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are where they are financially and in the business world because they are shrewd businessmen. Do you know what I mean? Because their mind is not going to be made up on a game of football at Wembley. It just isn't. Their decision will have been made 2-3 months ago, if not earlier than that, when they were looking at buying Manchester United or investing in it. They'll have said, right, well, they'll have put like a sort of barometer. They'll have said like, well, if we're in top 4 by May, then we'll think about it. Do you know what I mean? I think if they'll have gone, if we're 6 or low, then it's gone. It's not going to come down to one game.
No, I think I'm beginning to think you're right. I'm beginning to think that there's too much going on, and the thing with INEOS and Ratcliffe and Brailsford and everyone else and Jason Wilcox is they're at the games. They're there. They're not like the Glazers. The Glazers were aloof. You could even if you was struggling under Glazers, you could probably lie to him and tell him you won, and he wouldn't know. They wouldn't find out. You could say, "Oh, Palace game, yeah, we won 3-0. Yeah, all my signing scored. Oh, really? Yeah, well done." Do you know what I mean? They're that aloof and thick that they wouldn't know. But obviously, you've got Brailsford and Wilcox and Ratcliffe more often than not there in the stadium, and I think that matters, man, because I think when you're actually in that stadium, it's different, whether that's home or away, especially at Old Trafford, because you're hearing the reactions from the crowd, you're seeing how the crowd are responding, you're seeing that atmosphere, you're living it a little bit more. And if you're seeing football that is poor, results that are terrible, the crowd are not buying it, and you've spent £1 billion for the privilege. Yeah. I'm with you, Scotty. I think, you're a shrewd, ruthless businessman. And also, he's not your guy. You didn't appoint him. Now, I've said it, I'm not saying I'm Ten Hag out. I'm not. I would give him another chance or give him to start season. I just don't see it happening. I'll be honest with you. I think they're going to go. If we can't get Tuchel or we can't get whoever, we'll get someone. The only thing I will say is if it's Gareth Southgate, before he's even put pen to paper, I will be Southgate out. Scotty, I'm going to wrap up there unless there's anything you want to add, bro, before we do.
No, I was just going to say, we talk about ruthless businessmen. What was the average sort of lifespan of a manager under the Glazers? What do you reckon it was?
Post Fergie, I think it's roughly 2 seasons in it, because I think if you look, Jose got 2 and a bit, Ollie got a bit, then 2, then another bit, so that's a bit less than 3. Obviously, Moyes was 8 months, Ragnick was 8 months, but that was designed. Ten Hag so far, I think he's going to get to 2 years in it. So you're roughly talking 2 years on the whole. Because if you look at you can do the maths, can't you? Since 2013, we've had Moyes, Van Gaal, Jose, Ole, Ragnick, and Erik ten Hag. So you've had 6 managers in
11 years.
So it's roughly 2 years, just under 2 years per manager. But like I said, Ragnick and Moyes have lowered that, whilst Jose and Ole slightly more. So 2 years. So maybe look at it and go, 2 years, bring someone in for a couple of years. I'm not saying you copy the Glazers, but maybe the INEOS will go in, it isn't going to be a long-term thing. Most managers don't stick around forever. Do we bring someone in like Tuchel who can have that impact, get you back in the Champions League, get you challenging again, and then maybe you look at someone? I don't know.
Well, that's why I was trying to make that's why I was asking the question, is because I think INEOS bought Nice in 2019, and they've had 5 managers since 2019. So if you thought the Glazers were ruthless by sacking managers every 18 months to 2 years, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's got evidence, he's got a form of getting rid of managers within a year. I think Patrick Vieira, when he got sacked, he lost like 6 games on the bounce, and then Sir Jim had had enough and said, "Oh, that's it." So they're not, they're not pussyfooting about over the channel at Nice. So I don't expect them to do that at Manchester United when they've had a hell of a lot more investment and the ambitions are a hell of a lot bigger.
No pussyfooting around at Old Trafford. That is the motto. Thank you, my brother. Thanks, Guy. Thanks, everyone who jumped on, man. 254 people. Make sure, if you're not doing, you are subscribing to the channel. Also, go and check out our Patreon. I've put a little link into our Patreon. Thanks for everyone who got involved in the chat. Loads of good people there. It's good to see you all joining as well. We'll try and do a few more of these before the end of the season.
Good, man.
Yeah, these are good, nice little cheeky late night ones. Like old school times, isn't it? When we first started doing the old StreamYard from our respective guests. Anyway, that's been Scotty. I've been Motty. This has been a live from Scotty and Motty. Ten Hag out. Never mind that. Southgate out. See you in the next one.